Miami basketball fans stormed the court last night, and they had every reason to. That was the signature win that Jay Lucas needed.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Victory Wednesday. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. On this loaded episode, we're going to get deep into the weeds on the legal stuff in sports. Sports and entertainment lawyer Alan K. Fortel is going to join us to talk about some of the NCAA defining cases like Charles Bediako and Trinidad Chambliss and Joey Aguilar that are taking so many of the headlines right now. But before we get to that, let's soak it in, Miami fans. Now, we come off pretty spoiled, although, we didn't win the championship, but a deep college football playoff run last month, and now it's looking like the Miami Hoops team is likely going to get into the NCAA tournament. Last night, in what turned out to be a 75-66 win on your home floor against North Carolina. A North Carolina team that is ranked still until they're not, number 11 in the country, and they come off a huge buzzer-beating victory over Duke over the weekend. Miami takes out North Carolina last night in a game where the Hurricanes never trailed. They led. There was one tie in the second half, but they led wire to wire in that basketball game. You got the type of signature defensive performance you needed against a team in North Carolina. They scored 66 last night. They average almost 85 points per game. Miami forces 5 turnovers in the first 6 minutes. That was Miami Hurricanes basketball last night, played consistently in what is now your biggest win of the season so far. You needed that quad 1 win. Because as we've covered, and I've covered a lot of this on Locked On ACC, if you guys haven't checked out that show, you should. Miami entered last night very much on the bubble. Like ESPN bracketology had Miami as one of the last teams in. Play in for the 11 seed was the situation. Why? Miami had a really good record coming into last night, but they didn't have quality wins. Meanwhile, they have a couple of bad losses, right? If there was anything, Miami before last night was 18-5 overall, 7-3 in the ACC. Miami is now 19-5 and 8-3 in conference. But what was holding the Hurricanes back was a lack of signature wins coupled with really bad home losses against Florida State and against Cal. So Miami's tournament future very much in jeopardy if they didn't get the dub that they got last night. Hurricanes played their best game of the season. A quote from Jay Lucas after the win shared by Justice Sandel of Sports Illustrated. From Coach Lucas, quote, "We didn't do anything special. We didn't do anything different. I mean, you look at our box score, and this is what we usually do. It's 46 points in the paint, 12 offensive rebounds, doubled on their free throws. This is Miami basketball," he said. And you know what's Miami basketball? Malik Reneau putting in a double-double like he did last night with 16 points and 10 rebounds. True freshman sensation. I hope we can keep him another year. Shelton Henderson, the former 5-star recruit, put in double figures with 12 points. Ernest Udeh Jr., 15 points on the night. A real team effort from the Miami Hurricanes. And folks, a scene, I know the ACC is probably going to fine Miami $50,000 for this because that's what they do now, but to have your fans, and by the way, the arena was completely full. Like the Watsco Center was standing room only last night. You love that enthusiasm for Miami basketball. To have that court rushing at the end of the game. Listen, I know it's technically against the ACC's rules. Hell, North Carolina, who you just beat 3 days ago, they were rushing the court after a win against Duke. Now Miami returns the favor to them. I love to see that passion. I love to see that enthusiasm. And I love to see this community, this fan base, this city catching fire for a team that now I firmly believe is going to be in the NCAA tournament and hopefully can make a run. And I love this so much for Coach Jay Lucas because you guys remember the work that this man has had to do. Back in April, there were 0 players on the roster. Zero holdovers from Jim Larinaga's teams. And obviously credit to Coach L for putting Miami basketball on the map and doing things that no coach before him had done. But in one season, in a matter of a few months, Jay Lucas had to completely shape and rebuild this roster with a combination of freshmen and a lot of transfers. And Miami now is a team that's right in the thick of the ACC standings. And the next bracketology report that comes out is going to have Miami in good position. Let me double check the ACC standings now. Miami sits, they're still 5th in the ACC, but in good company. Duke, top of the ACC. They just lost their first conference game against UNC. Clemson, and Miami doesn't play Duke this year at all, by the way, in the regular season. So North Carolina was a big opportunity for Miami to get the quad 1 win that they just got. Clemson in 2nd, Virginia in 3rd, NC State in 4th, Miami 5th. Miami's actually ahead of Louisville, who's having a sensational season. They basically mercy ruled NC State the other night, and Miami's ahead of Louisville in the ACC standings. So Miami is in really, really good position. And I'll tell you the other thing that I love about this. You think about now the momentum for Miami athletics, right? I just talked about how, we were spoiled in the month of January with a deep college football playoff run for the football team. Now, February, hopefully into March, the basketball team is catching fire. I want to share with you, this is courtesy of a good friend of mine. She used to work with me in radio, Giselle Espinales, who's now a big shot on television locally here. She caught up with Mario Cristobal. But you talk about synergy. How perfect was this? Last night, the basketball team gets their biggest win of the season. And on that same night, the 2025 football team gets honored. They're all there. Cristobal, all his players. Mark Fletcher made a really cool speech at halftime. And Mario Cristobal, after the game, is talking about now this being a golden era, a golden age of Miami athletics. Listen to this.
You know what, that last game, everything moved so fast, never had a chance to thank the people, thank the fans, thank our football players. And to come out here, see all this enthusiasm from Coach Lucas and the basketball team. Miami, this is going to be the golden age of Miami athletics. We all feel it.
Mario, have you gotten any rest, or there's no rest in this time of age when it comes to getting a team ready now for spring ball?
Yeah, I don't think there's, if you really want to be good, and, we're really motivated. We're back to work. This is really the first time we've reflected on last season. All eyes pointing forward, everything full throttle.
All right, thank you, Coach. Enjoy the night. Thank you. Go Gabe.
I love it. I'm pretty sure Cristobal and company did enjoy the night last night, watching the basketball team get a big win on a night when the football team was honored. And, we are going to talk more football, a lot more football throughout the week. You've got off-season workouts going on now. You've got spring ball, which we imagine is going to start at the end of March. The dates are not confirmed yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing those dates getting confirmed. We're going to talk a lot more about the task ahead from Mario and his players. We're actually going to have another episode later on today. We're going to be joined by a very good friend of mine, Michael Yo. We're going to talk football with Michael, who's a professional stand-up comedian who also loves his Miami Hurricanes. He hosts the Comics on Canes podcast. But when we come back, we're going to talk about all these crazy legal entanglements in the college sports world with sports and entertainment lawyer, friend of the show. He is our legal expert. Alan K. Fortel will join us next. You want to keep it locked. We're only getting started on this brand new episode. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And here's a stat that says it all, folks. In the minute that I've been talking to you, Companies like yours just made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 off sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Folks, the Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. I love the Olympics, especially being in Milan, my father's hometown. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Hey, if you consider yourself an everydayer of Locked On Canes, you want to make your status official by joining the Everydayer Club. Click the link in the show notes below or go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com and join the all-access tier of the Everydayer Club. You get exclusive episodes of the Canes Colada. You get an exclusive newsletter, one-on-one texting with me, and so many other great benefits. Guys, you want to check this out. We put a lot of work and extra content into the Everydayer Club, so hit that all-access tier and make your status official. Miami's huge win against North Carolina was a great on-the-court moment in college basketball, but off the court. The talk this week has been the eligibility of now former Alabama Crimson Tide player Charles Bediako. So his college basketball career seems to finally be over again after an Alabama circuit judge denied his motion for a preliminary injunction on Monday. Now, keep in mind with Bediako, he was at Alabama, left to go pro in 2023, played 3 years in the G League, and then he came back, but he's no longer allowed back. And all the stuff that's been going on throughout college sports. I mean, we had the Darian Mensah saga, which we covered extensively with our guest today. And now we have all this stuff going on with Bediako and Trinidad Chambliss and other quarterbacks in football. Our guest, Alan K. Fortel, who's a sports and entertainment lawyer for Weiss, Sirota, Helfman, Cole, and Bierman. You described this all this stuff to me as a sports litigator's dream, Alan. And I imagine when you saw the news of the Bediako update, that was for you, that was like it was like winning a huge game, sinking a last-second shot to see something like that.
It got me an opportunity to talk to you and your peeps, and that's always a pleasure. And as soon as that came down, I reached out and I said, okay, we've got a lot of stuff going on. There's 4 things going on, and you want to talk about them, so I'm here to talk with you. You know I love this. So ask away, Alex. What do you got?
All right, so on Bediako, how significant is this ruling in terms of setting a precedent for what eligibility means now in college sports? Because this is a guy that was an Alabama player, 3 years ago, left, played 3 years of G League basketball, and then came back. And now a judge has said, no, you cannot do that. What's the significance? Well,
the real significance is he signed what's called a 2-way contract, which allowed him to be optioned to an NBA team. And that was, in effect, the kiss of death for his re-enlisting in college sports, because the NCAA has rules that they're archaic. We've discussed them. They're a little outdated, especially given the fact that they're now paying athletes. So it's a little crazy. But the facts are the facts on this one. A temporary injunction temporary restraining order was issued here. He did play, I think, 5 to 10 games or 10 days, or he was playing. And in fact, he got abused by the Florida Gator fans, called him a G League dropout. That was really, really impressive.
That was a great chant, by the way.
Yeah, it was. You got to give him a little love. It's not only the Dukies students that are good with the quips. But the NCAA finally won a case, and that's sort of big. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they've been losing a lot, and the decision was correct. he was different than the Nnaji case. If you remember, Nnaji he went international. He was not he was drafted. He didn't sign. This guy was never. He did not sign. He played for G League. He abused the system by actually trying to go back, and it caused an uproar with coaches. Except of course the Alabama coach, Coach Oates, is 100% behind this guy. And he has there's some interesting quotes. Let's talk Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker is the guy, the NCAA czar, okay? And listen to what he said. This is the guy from the NCAA now, okay? Common sense won around today, Baker said. The court saw this for what it is, an attempt by professionals to pivot back to college and crowd out the next generation of students. College sports are for students, not for people who already walked away to go pro and now want to hit the undo button at the expense of the teenager's dream. While we're glad the court upheld the rules our members actually want, one win doesn't fix the national mess of state laws. It's time for Congress to stop watching from the sidelines and help us provide some actual stability. Now, Charlie Baker's been getting his ass kicked. Okay, this is a big win for him, first. Second of all, he's back on the federal preemption wagon. Remember, I told you about that as it related to NIL. One rule across the United States. Every state has the same rules. It's not this, piecemeal. You can have college students here and you can have high school students take there. It's one rule across the board, one rule for eligibility. So let's set it up. Bediako sued on January 20th. Judge Roberts, a six-figure donor, also called a booster in the old days, granted a temporary restraining order, but he recused himself after he did that, which was similar to the Mensa case, if you remember that. On Monday, the NCAA won the injunction hearing but under a different judge. And the judge was the judge that also has a murder case, believe it or not, against an Alabama ball player. So clearly this new judge had the, I'm going to say, cojones, for lack of a better term, a Miami term. The bottom line is he said, look, this is not a matter for an injunction. This is a matter for damages. Remember, I told you the last time, when you have damages, you don't have an injunction. He said, you can figure out how much you want to sue the NCAA for on the damages, but we're not going to force the NCAA to allow you to play. So that's the real rub here. He signed a two-way contract. He tried to go back in, and look, it was smart, okay? He would make a lot more money on NIL than he would in the G League, okay? And that's the real issue we have here. We have ball players who didn't really take into consideration because they weren't clairvoyant. They didn't know this was going to happen. All this money is now available to the big college players. Let me tell you what Coach Oates said, who was going to stand by this guy because he was one of his ball players and give him a scholarship. Here's what the coach said. I'm 100% behind him. He's on scholarship. Charles is our guy. That's been our point since the beginning. This isn't some random 23-year-old playing professionally in Europe for 4 years, bringing over as a mercenary halfway through the season, like some other places have done. He's right. Yeah. He's right.
And that's very common as well. You bring in the guys who have European pro experience.
Just like Nnaji, the same thing. The NCAA distinguishes between signing an NBA-laden contract, this two-way contract, versus an international contract. I don't know why they feel that distinction is necessary, because now the international leagues, Barças of the world, are paying significant jack to their athletes. So it's another one of these archaic NCAA rules that's no rhyme or reason to it. Why? If you sign a two-way deal, but you're a G League player, that's somehow different eligibility-wise to a kid or even a young man who signs and plays in Europe. Europe is professional.
Yeah.
That's just the fact. So it's a difference without a distinction. But these are the NCAA rules. I've always said to you, and I know you're a big fan of the anti-NCAAs. I was with you, and I still am with you. The rules don't match the present status of the leagues and the game now. They're paying $20 million to each university for things that they have done wrong. They're being punished. So why are they punishing athletes. Now, in this case, I could see the other coaches saying, "Hey, man, you can't come back. You make your choice. You make your bed, now sleep in it," kind of thing.
Right.
But it's not a good look. I told you that before. Players suing the NCAA, NCAA suing players. But here's what it leads to. It leads to other issues. You mentioned Trinidad Chambliss. Okay, so let's talk about him for a little while. We all saw him in the playoffs. He played very well against UM. The NCAA denied his appeal for a 6th year of eligibility. He was asking for a waiver, and it was denied. And it was a medical redshirt waiver. Here's where the NCAA gets messed up again. Okay.
Yeah.
The NCAA said that it stemmed from his 2nd year at Ferris State, and the NCAA denied his initial request for a waiver back on January 9th. They filed lawsuits, and they filed it. Remember the playbook now for lawyers. File your suit in the state court where your college resides. You're going to get favorable treatment from the judges. 2 judges we have seen have had to recuse themselves after entering temporary restraining orders. It's interesting. They both entered TROs for the player and then got the hell out of Dodge and let somebody else handle it. Oh, by the way, my wife's a librarian in the Mensa case. And oh, by the way, I'm a 6-figure booster, not donor. They use the term donor. But the interesting thing is that he didn't dress for a single game while suffering from allegedly a severe incapacitating medical condition. But the NCAA, being the big bad NCAA that they are, they said that the medical documentation that Chambliss provided showed that he chose to forego surgery in 2022 so he could participate in the football season and opted instead for medication management, but did not play. So the NCAA is saying something weird here.
That's very weird.
If he would have undergone surgery, then his application would have been looked upon favorably for the waiver.
I don't like that.
No, that says to the student, you have to listen to the doctors. Remember, look, there's a serious relationship between the medical staff and the football team. Back in the day, if you had a concussion, they gave you smelling salts, asked you what your name was, who the president was. If you had the vice president, you got to play. Get out on the field. You know what I mean? So there's not that significant trust. Another thing is athletes and their families and their peeps, their professionals now, tell the kid, don't get cut. Even though the cutting is different, it's laparoscopy, whatever, it's not the same way it used to be. It's like, don't do that. That could destroy you for life. So the NCAA is giving out some really weird kind of prognostication here, which says if you get cut, if you take the doctor's advice, you can have your medical red shirt year. If you don't, you're going to have a problem. Well,
shouldn't the most important thing be like he still did not play because of that, medical situation like that? It shouldn't matter if he had the surgery or not. It still kept him out.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you. But then again, Alex, there goes your anti-NCAA roots. You know that we've had this conversation. We're not big fans. We're not big fans of what they're doing.
Don't go anywhere. We'll continue our conversation with sports and entertainment lawyer Alan K. Fortel right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. We're not done yet.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On ACC. I know Kenton Gibbs and I will talk more about Miami's big win against North Carolina. Let's get back to our awesome conversation with sports and entertainment lawyer Alan K. Fortel.
So anyway, I got a little personal interesting thing about the Trinidad Chambliss situation. So the professionals for the backup quarterback, who was the starter for one game before Trinidad took over, named Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons was the backup quarterback for Mississippi. He was the starter first. Then he backed up Trinidad, didn't get to see any playing time, and made a decision, an intelligent decision at the time, because they thought that Trinidad would win the waiver, given the facts that we've just discussed. And he goes and signs with Missouri. So if Trinidad is not allowed back in, and his hearing is this week, and you know the drill now. It's temporary restraining order. You get to play, or you get to be whatever you are for 10, 15 days. Then a hearing comes on the injunction. Then if you win the injunction hearing, you win for the time being. If you lose the injunction hearing, you still go to trial, but you go to trial on the damages. So anyway, Simmons had to make a decision. Do I sit during this, transfer portal time, or do I put myself in? He put himself in under, and I told you about this, the non-contact list, where you put yourself in to reserve your spot, but you tell other teams, I'm not to be contacted. He wasn't to be contacted until after they lost, actually. It was when they lost to UM. He was being contacted. He now signs with Missouri. They had to go, Mississippi had to go get themselves another quarterback. Of course they did. It's the quarterback merry-go-round. Speaking of which, that leads you to Joey Aguilar, Tennessee Vol quarterback. Once again, the game plan for lawyers is get yourself a temporary injunction in your hometown. Okay, very, very important. But he's really interesting. Let me give you another nuance here.
Sure.
Joey Aguilar initially joined the Pavia lawsuit in federal court. The Pavia lawsuit in federal court was to determine whether or not junior college years count as to eligibility. Okay? It used to be if you were in junior college, those years counted. But the Pavia decision, which only applies to Pavia right now, was that junior college does not count. Okay? Now, Aguilar opted out before the court ruled so that he could go to where? State court in Tennessee with the local judges, with the judges who are boosters. He got his temporary restraining order in his lawsuit against the NCAA. He's seeking an extra year, his fourth year of Division I. If junior college doesn't count, he should be allowed to play. But he removed himself from the federal court in the Pavia lawsuit so he could go and do that. It's really, really interesting. Remember I told you the difference between an injunction and damages? Here's what they said about this. This is what the judge said. Each day that passes leaves Aguilar unable to prepare and jeopardizes major career opportunities, lost time and opportunities that cannot be fully calculated or remedied with money damages. If it can't be remedied by money damages, injunctions and temporary restraining orders are appropriate to deny the damages, to negate the damages that the individual players actually have a possibility of being damaged by. So you've got this crazy mix of quarterbacks and basketball players. And right now it's like, I don't know, it's like injunction hearing week. There's supposed to be like three of these. No, really. What's on the schedule this week, Coach? Well, we've got 3 injunction hearings that could really, really determine how college football eligibility is determined, whether the NCAA's archaic, fossilized rules, which were put in place years and years ago before they had a transfer portal that was free agency, before they had $20 million a team payments for settlements for abusing players, NIL for the last 30, 25 years. But you've got a situation now where the courts are making the decisions, not the NCAA, not the individual lawyers. It's actually going to the courts. And remember, it does have some effect on other courts. But we talked about this. Until such time as there's a case, a verdict or judgment, an appeal, and a written opinion, there is no written opinion that has what's called precedent. It has some precedentiary value. Another judge in Nashville did this. Another judge in wherever, in Tuscaloosa did this. But it doesn't have what's called binding precedent. It's advisory. Okay, so we all know where the courts are going now. If somebody turns pro, they can't turn around and go back to college. That's sort of smart. You know what I mean? It is. It's a shame that they made the choices that they made without being able to forecast the change of the law and things of that nature. But that's the law, man. You deal with it as it is. You know, you play it's sort of like golf. You play the ball where it lies. You play this, you know, based upon where the law was at the time you entered into your deals. They're getting a little bit screwed. This guy Bediako is supposed to be a good guy. He made a bad basketball decision, but that's only in hindsight. Because at the time he made the decision, it was smart. He went to G League. He's not the greatest basketball player. He's only averaging like 10 points a game in college, 8 points a game in the G League.
Yeah, it's not as if like LeBron decided to go to Duke or something. Like it's not like that.
Nothing like that. But once again, I can't have a conversation with you without talking about how it really is the wild, wild west of sports right now. Is. And it changes, and it's rapidly changing. But for right now, Charlie Baker can have his scotch. He can sit and breathe a little bit. His NCAA is still intact. It's tarnished. It's old. It's crotchety. It's your grandpa's NCAA. But you know what? They've lost a lot of their luster. They're looked at as bullies still. But they needed a win so badly, Alex, because it was, I told you last time, man, the players were just running all over this. I know that, the UM probably settled and resolved some of their stuff because, it's not your normal UM-centric Locked On Canes audience right now. Well, your audience is still your Locked On Canes audience. We're talking about other stuff. But you know what? It keeps going. The hits keep on coming. The law keeps on playing out. You get to have me on your show. I love being here and talking to you. And you know what I really like? I'm going to give you another compliment. The other week, I heard you talking on Joe Rose. That caused me to call him up and get on there. But you actually listen when I talk to you, man. You do.
I learned from you.
That's crazy. I can say all I want. When I talk to my children, it's like Charlie Brown's teacher. Except now that my son works for us, all of a sudden I'm smart. Now he listens to me. He calls me Alan, and I'm smart and listens. We go on the golf course. I'm a moron. It's great. I'm dad. But going back to that, I heard you speaking, and you had it right. Like when you talk to me and I talk to you, we take what each other talks about. I listen to you about the Canes and who they're who they're looking at, and what Mario's going to do next year, et cetera, et cetera. And, you listen to me on this, sports/law stuff. It's pretty cool for me to hear you mimic me. I got to be honest with you, man.
It's it's why I appreciate your knowledge so much. I mean, think about all that we just learned in these past 20 minutes from Alan K. Fortel. And so I can't thank you, Alan, enough for that, for being someone we can turn to when sports gets complicated, because I don't think we're going to see less of all the legal stuff. The intersection between sports and the law continues to get bigger and bigger. So thank you so much for spending the time, my friend. And hopefully we don't have anything UM related that's too crazy in the near future. Thankfully the Darian Mensah saga is in the rear view and he's a hurricane. But if anything else like that comes up, we're going to put up the Allen signal through Gotham City.
It's just a freaking pleasure to hang out with you and talk sports. And, it's the most fun I have today. So I guess my 9 o'clock hour is going to be my best hour. But you know what? I'll try to make the 10, 11, and 12 o'clock pretty good too. I promise you.
That's what we do. We appreciate Alan Fortel as always. We appreciate you guys, the Everydayers. Make sure you hit up the Everydayer Club in the show notes below. Hit that all access tier. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.